Hello everybody, Domestic Fox here with another furry knife review, and today we'll be reviewing this guy. This is the Kershaw Strata. Now this is actually a pretty cool knife that I actually personally enjoy. This guy's got D2 blade steel, a clip point, flat ground, bead blasted blade finish, G10 handle scales with a steel frame lock. Really cool design right here with a copper anodized insert. And it has an extremely deep carry pocket clip. Really, it's one of the deepest I've seen. This guy is also made in China, so if you prefer American-made knives, then look elsewhere, because this guy's made in China. Now, the price on this guy is $107.99 with the MSRP. Blade HQ, it's $64.95. On Amazon, it's $58.81. I don't recommend buying from Amazon unless if you really trust the dealer on there, because you just sometimes never know what you're going to get on Amazon. You could get flawed versions or maybe even knockoffs. So just use your best judgment. On Kershaw's website, it's $86.39, which is a bit high. At Knife Center, it's $69.95. And on DLT Trading, it's $72.95. From the pricing, Amazon has the best deal, but I prefer to go through a trusted dealer. I would choose Blade HQ. They have the lowest price of those dealers that I mentioned. This guy is running on a ball bearing pivot system, so it's very nice and smooth on deployment and very nice and smooth on disengagement. The action on this knife is actually really nice. It was a bit stiff out of the box, and just working with it over time, it eventually loosened it up, making it a lot more smooth and easier to use. But it was tight at the start. It just needs some working in. Now I'll be taking you over to human hands for a quick moment to show you close-ups, measurements, and other little details of the knife. Okay, welcome back. Now, as you saw, this is a frame lock. I don't usually prefer steel frame locks because they tend to get stuck very easily, and they're kind of sluggish on deployment and disengagement. Disengagement sometimes can be uncomfortable with frame locks depending on how tight the lock is. Like on the Polar, it's very tight and it hurts my hand. Steel frame locks are not the most fidgety knife, so if you're looking for a fidget factor in this knife, you're not going to find it. The best fidget factor, there's definitely better fidgety knives out there. And another thing for steel frame locks is there's usually that, for some reason, big gap between the frame and the lock. I don't know why. I think that's kind of a Kershaw thing, but I noticed that with even CRKT, they have big gaps between the frame and the lock, and I don't know why that is. So if that's not aesthetically pleasing to you, then that's also going to be a problem with this knife because it does have a significant gap compared to titanium frame locks, which have a much smaller gap between the lock and the frame. Now, like I said, the pocket clip is very deep carry, so that is also a plus. Deep carry is nice. The pocket clip doesn't have too much of a hot spot. It does have quite a bit of a lip at the tip, so you might feel that in your hand if you're holding it wrong. There's plenty of handle on this knife to find a comfortable grip, so the ergos are nice on this knife. I can't complain about the ergos. The pocket clip, to remove it, you have to take the knife apart, for the screws are on the inside, not the outside, but that's okay because it's only right-hand carry pocket clip. There's no, it's not reversible. So this knife is not ambidextrous, so lefties will be rather disappointed if they wanted this knife. It is designed mostly for right-hand use. The only ambidextrous use on this knife is the flipper tab, so that's the only thing that lefties can use with ease. Otherwise, the frame lock and the pocket clip is designed for right-handed people. And as you saw from human hands, the blade does shoulder the stop pin quite a bit. It completely just engulfs it, which is pretty cool. I like that aesthetically. It looks really nice. And there is some nice jimping on top of the blade where you would put your thumb. And there is a nice amount of jimping on the flipper tab, so you can get some grip on there as well. And it's not too aggressive, but not too smooth, so it doesn't grip anything. It does have copper anodized backspacers, so it matches the insert very well, which I like that aesthetically. Also, something else that's pretty cool is the Kershaw Strata is inspired by the Spanish Navaja, which is a Spanish self-defense knife, which is really cool. Now, this is the 4.5-inch version. There is a 5.4-inch version out there. So if you would like something bigger, there's that for you. This is too small for you, but this is already a pretty big knife. So if you're like, this is too small, then yeah, you're probably a Cold Steel fan at that point. I'm not sure if it's out yet or coming out, but they even have a cleaver blade version of the Strata, which is also really cool because I love cleaver blades. They're just so much fun, aren't they? One of the negatives with this knife is that it does use D2 steel, which is only semi-stainless. It will rust if not taken care of, and it's bead blasted. So bead blasted creates micro dimples, which moisture likes to get trapped in there. So your knife may rust faster if you do not take care of it more often. So just keep an eye on it because I believe I got a little bit of rust on mine out of the box. It wasn't my fault. It just came that way. I did not get this from Blade HQ. I got this from a knife store that I live a few hours away from. So it may have been in their shop for a long period of time without any care, and that may be why I got little tiny rust spots on it. But maybe that's just like dirt or grime. I tried to wipe it off. It won't go away. I'm not entirely sure if it is rust or not. But just something to keep in mind that it is bead blasted and D2 rusts. So you may want to maybe force a patina on it to give it a little extra resistance against rust, or just hit it with some rust inhibitor every time you're done with it and do it just every so often. But I won't worry too much. All in all, price to material ratio and then fit and finish and the tolerances of this knife, I believe that this is actually a really good knife from Kershaw. You can tell it's a Kershaw knife. Kershaw has a very distinct design language. You could just tell it's a Kershaw. I don't know what that is, but every time I see a Kershaw knife, I'm just like, yeah, that looks like a Kershaw knife. So they just, I guess, are distinguished in that way. But otherwise, I actually like this knife. I love the blade shape. I love the handle ergonomics. They're actually pretty comfortable. The action is not too bad once you break it in. And as you saw from the cut test from human hands, it is pretty sharp. It gets a bit dull because this is factory edge. I've never sharpened it, barely ever used it. It does get a little bit dull near the tip. It was cutting just fine at the back of the edge, but once it started traveling all the way up the belly to the tip, it started to fail on cutting smoothly and ended up starting pushing the paper out of the way and ripping it. I'm not sure how accurate of a test cutting paper is to sharpness of the knife, but it gives kind of an idea. I've had knives that just glide through paper. This guy did not glide through it near the tip, but otherwise the backside is decently sharp. So I would suggest maybe once you pull it out of the box, test it for yourself, put your own edge on it, or maybe just give it a quick hone and strop, get it just a little bit nicer, and then test that and see if you can cut cardboard with it. Otherwise, it's definitely fine and usable. And I don't care what anybody says, I love D2. D2 steel is great. It's affordable and it takes a really good edge and it stays sharp for a decent amount of time. It's gonna work for my daily cutting tasks. I barely ever use my knives, unfortunately, because cutting tasks only come so often. Sometimes I have to force myself to use knives by just making situations where I have to, like opening up a bag of chips and just cutting that open because I just want to use my knife so badly. But D2 will serve you just fine, and I don't care what you say. I like D2, and I always will. Having said that, there are better steels out there. You can definitely tell. There are steels with better performance, rust resistance, etc. But for the price, I still like D2, and it's still used quite a bit through a lot of knives. So you're going to one day stumble into a D2 knife, and it will serve you just fine. It's not bad. It's a good steel, and I love sharpening it. Takes an edge real nice and fast. Well, I think that's all I have to say about the Kershaw Strata. I actually really like this knife. I like that it's big because everybody is always trying to make tiny knives, and I like big knives because I'm obsessed with big knives. But I do like my small knives as well. My preference are big knives. They just grab my attention. So I like that it is big, and there's an even a bigger one of it, which is funny. Yeesh. I knocked it down with my snout. Scared me. But that'll be it for this video. I hope you like this video. If you like more knife and EDC related content, check out my other videos. Other videos right here. And remember to subscribe because I post every Saturday and every other Sunday and be more knives and more videos in the future. Thank you so much for watching and have a fantastic day. Bye!